The husband of the Michigan woman who went missing during a boating trip in the Bahamas is back in the U.S. as a search for his wife continues. The attorney for Brian Hooker says he left the Bahamas because his mother is ill, but that he intends to return to the islands. The 58-year-old was taken into custody last week and was released Monday night without being charged in connection to the disappearance of his wife, Lynette, who Brian Hooker says fell off their dinghy in rough weather over a week ago. So let's take a legal deep dive into this case. Criminal defense attorney Josh Colesrud joins me once again. We know that Hooker is still a suspect in this investigation. So while I understand, this is a dire situation, his mother is very ill, but he's still allowed to leave the Bahamas as a suspect?
Well, the Bahamas and the Caribbean, they don't have a good track record with prosecuting murder cases. And I'm thinking about the Natalie Holloway case, for example.
In Aruba, yeah.
Yep. And so here, though, they did have him for 5 days, and they did actually interview him for over 3 hours. And the prosecutor's office did say that there wasn't enough to prosecute him because right now there's no body. There's no solid motive. There's no forensics. And so it's hard to make a case based on suspicion alone. So he's back in the United States, and let's say murder charges do come. How would he then get back to the Caribbean or the Bahamas? They would have to do what's called an extradition warrant through Interpol, and it would go through the State Department, and it would then go to the DOJ, and there would have to be an identity hearing saying that this is the guy who we say he is, and this is a murder charge, which is the same charge in the United States. And then because there's an international treaty between the United States and the Bahamas, the United States would be obligated to extradite Mr. Hooker back to the Bahamas.
Okay, so I was looking at some of the, prior history with their relationship. So it turns out in 2015, his wife was arrested on charges of assault and battery. Her daughter has said very clearly from the beginning she doesn't think this was an accident. The couple has a long history of being avid sailors. It sounds a little hinky to me, as well as to a lot of other people. I mean, how much weight does this carry?
I don't think it carries very much weight. It's not uncommon for stepdaughters maybe not to have the best relationship with their stepfathers. But I'll tell you, I used to be one of the head attorneys for a small, tiny island nation in the Republic of Palau. And I'll tell you, these types of tragic accidents happen all the time, especially when alcohol is involved. And when you look at the size of the dinghy, it was 8 feet long or less and had an electric motor out in the middle of the ocean. And you look at this and you're like, who in the heck would ever take that out in the ocean? And you're like, well, maybe if they're drunk. And they weren't wearing life jackets. And, it's in the islands. When you live in the islands, this type of accident, if it is an accident, isn't uncommon.
Oh, okay. So you're siding with Hooker.
For right now, unless they're going to look through his phone. If he has any Google searches for, how to get rid of a body, how to get away with murder, anything like that, I think that he'll be charged. But without something concrete, without some type of other evidence that completely disproves that this was an accident, he does get the benefit of the doubt.
All right. Josh, thank you.